All right, call to order the City of Clear Lake Shores City Council regular meeting at 6:30 on April 20th, 2019. All members are present. All right, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and the Texas flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. We'll start off first with the public hearing. Notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the City of Council and the City of Clear Lake Shores will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, August 20th, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. in the council chambers at the clubhouse located at 931 Cedar Road in Clear Lake Shores, Texas 77565, at which all interested persons shall have the right and opportunity to appear and be heard upon the following items. Possible revocation of the following waterfront leases for non-payment, and we're only going to mention the two that are up because they had a couple that went ahead and got paid. So the first two are B017, and this isn't bingo, Leslie Lundquist, and then B027B, Leslie Lundquist, and lastly, Efrain and Christina Franco, and that's C-078. Anybody want to speak on behalf of that public meeting?
Yes, Christine Franco has spoken to her. She will be mailing payment tomorrow. She was unaware of where her mail was being received.
Can you do the mic, please?
Hello. Okay. I just spoke with Christine Franco regarding her waterfront lease. She wasn't aware of where her mail was being sent, so she said she would mail in payment tomorrow.
All right, Colin, any others? Brent?
I have additional information on Lundquist. We had this problem with her address originally, and we were mailing it to an address that was off island. We went through this process with her as well. She came in, made good on her rent payment or lease payment, and then said send all correspondence to the address on the island. We've done that. However, I'm not so sure that it's being forwarded to another address beyond the island.
Her renters moved out.
Okay. So, you know, I don't know that her mail is being sent where it needs to be, so we need possibly see if we can locate a phone number for her and get a hold of her, unless someone else has a way of getting a hold of her.
So she paid for both B17 and B27B?
Yes.
Okay.
Not this year.
Not
last
this year, but she
Oh,
has
okay.
in the past.
And she asked to move it to a different location,
Okay,
which
so
is
she
on the
hasn't paid
island.
for this year. Gotcha.
And she has not paid this
Right.
year.
Okay.
And the people that live in the Clodfelters live in the house, and they've moved to El Lago.
So we're trying to catch up with addresses, whether they move on or off, and then they tell us to mail it to that address. Because I guess they anticipate someone being in there and forwarding their mail and so forth. But we've been unable to get any response from her.
From when they signed the lease agreement, right? In 2011. Yeah.
Okay, having no further comment, the public hearing is closed. Item 4, reports from council. Councilman Mark Thompson.
I have nothing to report at this time.
Copy that. Councilwoman Christy Lyons.
I have nothing to report at this time.
Copy that. Councilwoman Angie Terrell.
On August 5th, I attended the Bayou Animal Services Board of Directors meeting where I represent Clear Lake Shores, and this is the first meeting that they've had since October of last year. You may or may not be aware that they're building the new animal shelter on Dietz Road just past the railroad tracks. So we were given an update on that by the new shelter manager, whose name I have written down. Sarah Saunders, that's who it is. And Their projected date is December 16th. She said don't hold your breath. They'd had weather delays and also engineering delays. So December 16th, but probably later. A couple of things that came up during that meeting I was not aware of. That animal shelter, Bayou Animal Services provides animal control services for Clear Lake Shores. Mostly it's raccoon calls and wild animal calls. We don't have a lot of domestic animal calls, although we do pay them $7,798 a year for their services. Santa Fe and Dickinson also contract with them for services. There's going to be an increase for all three cities this year. Clear Lake Shores' increase is, they're asking for an additional $702. It's a 3% increase, bringing us to $8,500. And there was a lot of discussion about why the increase. Santa Fe is increasing $53,000. Dickinson increasing $11,000. So they were explaining a lot about the services that they provide on a very limited shoestring budget as it is now. They have 2 animal control officers, 1 manager of the shelter, and they have 1 dog room person, a cat room person, and an office person. And they provide all of the animal services for all 3 cities based on that. They're wanting to add a full-time person, and they're also wanting to add, they have to do additional legal requirements that they were not in compliance prior to Sarah taking over the animal shelter. So all that costs money. Vet increases have occurred, and of course the animal shelter is new, and so that's going to cost money. It's not a glamorous animal shelter. It was designed for animals and for animal shelter workers. It's not going to be, you know, glam, but it's very functional. 2 things that I wanted to bring up for you. In requesting that money from all 3 cities, they're also letting us know that they're expanding their volunteer program. Their current shelter, no one wants to volunteer there, not even me, and I'm a huge animal lover. It's stinky, it's hot, it's depressing. Nobody wants to go, and nobody does. So they operate with just the folks that they have on the 3 employees. The new animal shelter, they've contracted with 2 volunteer associations, Partners for Paws. They're going to be running the volunteer and foster outreach program, as well as the Heartworm Positive Dog program, and Awakening the Forgotten. This one's super cool. This one, they have a military trainer being paid for by Awakening the Forgotten Foundation to train dogs that have been rescued that are appropriate to become service dogs, PTSD for veterans. So they're going to be offering that for free, and in return, the veterans are going to be coming into the shelter and building cool stuff for the animals, you know, different playgrounds and yards, and offering their services in return for the services that these dogs are being trained to provide for them. So just a lot of really cool things going on there, and I'll continue to update. Lots of fundraising efforts in the works. They've established a 501c3 charitable donation foundation that all the donations will be able to be channeled right to Bayou Animal Services. If there wasn't a 501c3 established by the board, there would be legal problems with giving that money to the shelter. So anyway, a lot of really good stuff in the works. We have a great shelter manager. They are asking for $700 additional for Clear Lake Shores. I do wear my Clear Lake Shores hat on that board, but in my opinion, what was presented to us, that's not a lot that they're asking, and I wouldn't have a problem writing a check out of my own pocket for that for them. And that's all I have.
I also heard that they're naming their leukemia feline facility after Kimberly Vaughn, who was a victim in the Santa Fe shooting because she was such a cat lover. So I thought that was a cool gesture.
They are in that feline leukemia positive room because they're dedicating that to her, and they have a room like that. That's unheard of in a shelter. Feline leukemia is a very contagious and deadly disease, and yet they're going to have a room dedicated just for cats rescued that way. Petco then is giving them an annual sizable donation for doing that. So they're really trying to reach out for donations and not just into our pockets.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Terrell. All right, Councilwoman Jan Bailey.
Just attended the Emergency Services Board meeting last night, and I think we'll be talking about that later. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman Jan Bailey. Councilwoman Amanda Fenwick.
I also attended the SB meeting last night, and we do have an agenda item on our agenda tonight regarding the contract with Galveston County Health Department. What we discussed last night at ESB was a small portion of that contract, which calls for the Kemah Volunteer Fire Department to pay about $120,000 to outfit our ambulance so that Galveston County can come in and use that for EMS services. I voted against that, just for the record. I feel that that should be something that the county should take on as our service provider, and so I think that's probably where I'll be leaning tonight towards my vote. I'm 100% in favor of Galveston County. We need them as a partner for our EMS transport services, and everything else I'm good with, but just for the record, that's kind of where I was last night on my vote. We also did discuss budget for next year. We're going to have a budget workshop on September 10th at 6 p.m. at the Firehouse. That is open to the public, just as all of our meetings are for the Emergency Services Board. We meet on the third Monday excuse me, of every month, 6 p.m. at the fire station. But we had some good discussions around the budget for next year and what our needs are from an Emergency Services Board standpoint. And then I owe you guys, council, I owe you all some social stats for Facebook, and I apologize, I was home in bed this afternoon not feeling good, so I didn't pull those, so I will pull them and I'll email them to you this week.
Alright, thank you, Councilman Fenwick. Alright, my report, welcome everybody, and we have a little monitor over there, so there's a bouncing ball. We can follow along, but anyways, here to display items that are inside of our agenda packet that are redacted that you're allowed to see and stuff like that. So Brent's driving away on that, and it's our first time, so please bear with us. Hopefully that'll help y'all with more information. A couple things, down at the end of Grove Road over in Kemah and Caroline Street and 3rd Street that would come underneath the bridge, we're providing it'll provide additional traffic access with a roundabout there. And so Clear Lake Shore is really interested in helping along with that. It also helps with Kemah traffic and Grove traffic, and eventually the hotel traffic with getting big buses in and stuff like that. We continue to work with Kemah and TxDOT, and we were actually able to get a rendering from LJA Engineering, and we're submitting that to TxDOT to help that along. Next is we continue to push for the golf cart pedestrian path underneath South Highway 146 during construction. Unfortunately, it's being held up for some safety concerns. They're looking at different avenues to provide us protection with such things like scaffolding with a little tunnel that goes over there. If you've ever been to New York City, you've seen a scaffolding they'll have in front of the buildings when they're working on the high rises and stuff, so that's what we came up with that idea. I think they're pushing forward. If anybody wants to call TxDOT, feel free to. It always helps with additional phone calls. And then lastly, myself and Brent just met with the mayor, Terry, over at Kemah, along with Daryl Alfell and everybody's company with the engineering services and all that stuff on the Drawer Road. And we're looking at amending the agreement to, right now we have an agreement for Clear Lake Shores to pay for Drawer Road, and then Kemah was supposed to pay for the intersection in the last 100 feet. They used all their funds on Bell Road, so they have no more funds available. So putting out an olive branch from Galveston, they're looking at modifying our match. Instead of they pay the first $400,000, and then we pay $400 and they match $400. We will only have to pay $300,000, and then Galveston County will pay $500,000. So we'll have a $100,000 decrease, and that'll help fund the light in a 4-way intersection at that location. So I think that's pretty important to push that forward. And that's all I have.
Mayor, thank you for that. It's so frustrating to sit out there and not know what's on the packet. Excellent job, Brent and Kurt. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, staff reports. Police Department Chief Cook, please.
Training conference recently attended. This year's riot, Robbery Investigators of Texas conference was outstanding. Assistant Chief Donaldson, Lieutenant T.K. Keel, and I attended this conference held in Frisco, Texas, at the Omni Frisco Hotel from August 7th until August 9th, 2019. The speakers were great, and all the subjects spoken about was very interesting. Thank you for allowing us to attend this training conference. E-ticket rider update. Happy to report much better progress made since last month's council meeting update. Thanks to all the hard work Dennis with Fricos IT did, as he has figured out and fixed all the printing issues that we've had for more than a year. We can now successfully print out a citation complete. However, just a few of the necessary check boxes on the citation won't check off. Superion is currently working on that software issue, and they will notify Dennis with Fricos to update our MCTs as soon as they have that issue fixed. good police work. At the recent Pizza with Police event, Sergeant Baylor gave a very good demonstration explaining the recovery of a stolen vehicle, narcotics arrest, and seizure of counterfeit money with fake ID material. That occurred August 14, 2019 at the Home Depot parking lot. Then, just 2 days later, on August 16, 2019, Corporal Flores seized more counterfeit money during another narcotics arrest in the Home Depot parking lot. Due to one of those suspects' extensive criminal history, the Galveston County DA's office set that person's bond at $100,000. Good police work to both Sergeant Baylor and Corporal Flores for getting more counterfeit money and narcotics off the street of Clear Lake Shores. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief Cook. And that was a great turnout at the cops with the pizza. And then I also failed to mention that there's a coffee with the mayor, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday at 9 o'clock. So hope to see y'all there. Building official Kevin Harrell, please.
Mayor and council, since our last meeting, I've issued 8 permits. It's been kind of a slow couple of weeks. Most of them minor permits. As for 311 Narcissus, I handed out notifications to the surrounding neighborhood to let them know that the demolition will be beginning early September. As I reported last council meeting, CenterPoint Gas wanted to wait about 4 to 6 weeks to remove the gas line. I talked them into doing it this week. They will be removing it the 22nd. That will give access to the contractor to take the house down. Currently, right now, I'm reviewing a set of plans for the Target remodel. I'm almost done with those. I have reviewed a set of drawings for the pad site for the McDonald's. Hope to get that started very soon. True North construction is still ongoing. In my code enforcement cases, I currently have 5 cases outstanding. All of them are junk vehicles here on the island. Of those 5 cases, I have 1 resolved. That's all I have.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, Fire Chief Brent Hunt, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. 70 total incidents for last month, 27 of those fire-related, 4 in Clear Lake Shores, 20 in Kemah, 1 in the county, and we provided mutual aid for 2 calls. EMS-related, 41, 3 in Clear Lake Shores, 38 in Kemah. Special operations, we had 2 Marine call-outs. The fire department attended the Galveston County Firefighter Association meeting and had 4 training drills on emergency management. We had an OEM meeting and an LEPC meeting. We had 2 situational weather conference calls, 1 Galveston County Complex Coordinated Terrorist Incident Tabletop Exercise Planning meeting, and a Red Cross Sheltering Fundamentals Partners overview class. With the Fire Marshal's Office, 84 total activities, business occupancy meeting, construction, and fire system meetings with 7, 2 in Clear Lake Shores, 5 in Kemah. Fire inspection, fire system testing, site visit was 74, 15 in Clear Lake Shores, 56 in Kemah, 3 in the county. Plan reviews was 3, that was Kemah. Personal update, we did accept 1 volunteer last night into the fire department. Is still trying to work on another volunteer application. Other than that, just to share a quick story about what happened next door to the fire station at the Texaco station. Or not still Chief Cook's thunder, but I happened to be on the phone with the captain that was on duty that day and actually heard the shot on the phone. And that was just random in our area, folks. Just be careful. When you talk about scared, locking down the fire station, not knowing what to do, it's just your situational awareness, dough, counterfeit money, it's out there. And I just want everybody to be cautious. And we had a great turnout for school. The school is passed all their inspections, so more students out there, all happy, cheery. And other than that, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief Hunt. City Administrator Brent Spear.
Good evening. I'm trying to drive and keep it on the roadway tonight with this technology, so bear with me if I'm a little slow to react, but try to get this lined out for you. I'll just bring you up to date on pools and parks. we've had some problems with the submerged pool lights. We've gotten those replaced, and we've split them into different circuits, so they should be working. And we have one that needs to be totally replaced, and they're supposed to be working on that. So if you swim at night and you like bugs and frogs, I encourage you to go over there when it's dark. The Civic Club is going to be having a back-to-school swim party, and that's going to be August 25th from 4 to 6. It's going to be an actual party, and extra lifeguards will be on duty for that. I think we have the Economic Development Corporation on our agenda. However, I will just bring you up to speed. I believe Phase 1 is nearly complete, and that is the parking lot, 2094 on Clear Lake Road, right out across from Okies. As you look at that, that has an asphalt millings surface. It's just, it's not real hard. It's just, it's kind of like set up Jello almost. You can still poke through it if you have to. But it's covering about 75 or 80% of that parking lot. We'll have to approach EDC and or City Council for some additional funding to complete that project, or we can leave that in place. Phase 2 is some landscaping, and we already are planning on having to remove or stop using some spots to allow for some landscape improvements. So if that's the case, we may be able to relocate those millings over to a spot where it's bare. But it is functional. I also remind you that on August 23rd, this upcoming Friday, that parking lot will be used for a blood drive. That's in honor of Carrie Kelly, who's undergoing some cancer treatment. Spoke to her today. And that will be up there from 3 to 8. If you check the Facebook page, and there's some other spots you can find some flyers for that. You need to pre-register, or you can just show up and hopefully luck the draw. But they tried to at least book 40 people for that event. If you have time and you like to donate blood, I'll be up there at 3 o'clock to do that myself. And I think they have some prizes for the first 40 donors over 21 years old. The mayor mentioned August 31st is going to have coffee with Mayor Kurt. That's at 9 o'clock right here in the clubhouse. Hope to see you there. To piggyback on to the police report with the ticket writers, I'm encouraged. I probably had no less than 600 emails related to this project. Every time someone responds, I'm clued in as a carbon copy, and it's been very frustrating for the fire department, or excuse me, the police department, trying to get this going. It's something that was paid for a long time ago, and we're trying to iron out those problems, and I think we're finally seeing the sun rise in the east, and we're looking for better weather. So I'm happy about that. One of the things that dovetails with that ticket writers is our court staff may possibly have to have some additional training, at least some training on that software to make sure that it interfaces. And we're going to have maybe some startup stumbles trying to get that all worked out with our court system. So we will be working with that. Christy and her crew will be working with that as well. So couldn't move on that until we made sure the ticket writers were complete. On 311 Narcissus, dovetail with Kevin's report. Just today we removed the fencing that's around the front of that building, also cut down a lot of invasive bamboo, which that's pretty sturdy stuff. I was surprised. And we're readying that for the demolition. Also, it's our intent to possibly allow that for some use for some training for the fire department. It's an opportunity for them to participate and practice on a structure that, heaven forbid, they have to. Typical structure that's on this island, it's on stilts, it's up in the air, poses a lot of challenges to get people up there. So spoke with the fire chief, and we're going to work towards that. No, it's not getting burnt to ashes and hosed down. It's going to be a non-disruptible event, probably a lot of ladder training. So you're aware of that. Also, there's no posted, trespass signs posted there. And as a reminder, school is in session, so please slow down, watch your school zones. It's added about 10 minutes to my commute in the morning getting here. I really like summer now because I can get to work quicker, but I'm willing to deal with those delays so that kids can get to school safe. So remind you of the same thing. Any questions?
Thank you, Brent.
Thank you, Brent. All right, committee reports, Parks and Pools Committee. We have a mic for you, please.
We had a pretty long meeting. We did not meet in July, so we had quite a few items to cover. Want to thank Angie for coming and presenting excellent and informative information on the boat ramp project. We really learned a lot. We appreciated her coming for that. We discussed with Brent completing the painting of the pool house and installing gutters on the pool house, so hopefully the water will not come into those bathrooms when it rains. And we really want to thank him for changing the valve on the faucet at the pool. We could not turn it, and therefore had trouble watering all those plants that we put in out there. So appreciate all that. We discussed the accountability of members, especially regarding unsupervised kids at the pool, especially later in the evening. About 9:30 one night, there was a bunch of little kids in the pool, absolutely no adults. And then also discussed members showing up with a large party group, not arranging it ahead of time. Supervisor had to be called for like a third guard, causing some issues. And in future, lifeguards can turn members away if they have not made arrangements and there's too many members for the proper ratio for the guards. And we discussed some of the parks, what to do with the flip-flop project, something maybe low maintenance. It had been a project of the Landscape and Beautification Committee. That committee has been dissolved. And working out some of the other planting and vegetation issues at Triangle and Sundial, etc. And and the book boxes. Thanks, Brent, for getting those out at Depot and the pool. If you don't know they're there, please come and use them. And hopefully they will be utilized. I think that's it.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, Waterfront Compliance Committee, Doug or Brad?
We've completed the initial walkthrough, and we've got re-verification checks to do, and we expect to complete it within the next week or two. By the next council meeting, Kevin should have the report, or you guys should have the report. I think Doug talked to Kevin today, so we'll issue that as soon as we complete it.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, Planning and Zoning Commission. Pat?
Planning and Zoning does have a meeting coming up this Monday, August 26th. We normally meet over in City Hall. This is a replat for lots on East Shore Drive, lots 627 through 630.
All right.
Zoning Board of Adjustments. I think we've got a meeting coming up in September. I can't remember the exact date, but I think there is a meeting. Haven't seen the agenda for that. There is one coming up in September.
Thank you. And Roads and Drainage, Richard?
Oh, we're trying to set up a meeting for September again to finally identify which roads we're going to eventually end up doing for 2020. We're waiting on the engineers to give us a back of the envelope estimate as to which ones are going to cost, so we can appropriate the correct amount of money that we have available to do those roads. We're also going to be doing some corings in those areas, and once we get the information from the engineers, we'll be able to have another meeting. We don't know when that meeting might occur, September, October, probably. We're also going to be putting in a box that's over on Narcissus and Ivy, where the corner is very deep there, and we're trying to make a larger radius. And you've probably seen the stanchions there to show that there's a hazard. So we're putting in a concrete box to try to extend the radius down there so it's not quite as hazardous. That'll be done with conjunction with the construction company that's doing the parking lot out here. Once they're finished out there, then they'll move over and do the box. And so I mentioned that we're going to have our meeting on probably September, October timeframe to pick the next set of roads.
Thank you, Richard. And just an FYI, I did contact the Water Control District, and they're going to be replacing all the blue indicators for the fire hydrants throughout the city, and that's in work. All right, Economic Development Corporation report. No report, Mike?
I wasn't the last meeting, I haven't read the minutes yet, so.
Okay. No report. All right, next item 8, scheduled visitor, Felix Flores from Galveston County Constable Precinct 1 candidate.
Good
Just
afternoon.
Mark's got to step out, just want to note it in the minutes.
I have a phone call I need to take.
Thanks. Go ahead. Sorry.
Good afternoon, Mayor, thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you and the council and the community for allowing me to come out and introduce myself. My name is Felix Flores. I am a candidate for the Galveston County Constable Precinct 1 election coming up. I'm not a politician. I'm not a public speaker. But all I am is just a simple, hard-working police officer. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I've been married to my wife, Dora, for 38 years. And I've been serving the Galveston County community for 31 years as in law enforcement. I'm currently working for Texas City Police Department. I'm assigned to the Criminal Investigation Division as a detective. I've been there 21 years. Throughout my career, I've had the opportunity to work for several task force, county task force, federal task force, and I learned as a young policeman that you need to work with local agencies to be able to accomplish your goal. I'm running for constable because I want to, and I don't know if you know who your constable is now. I really don't know, or whether you know what the constable duties are. But most of the constables now, in their duties, is to serve the court and serve their civil process paperwork. Papers. The reason I'm running for constable is because I want to bring a little bit of proactive law enforcement into the constable's office. By no means the constable is the police department, but we're not going to run a police department, and we couldn't afford to run a police department. But I do believe that the constable's office can assist local agencies to protect our schools, our citizens, and our property all the time. We're out in the field every day serving this process, this civil process paperwork. So, they're out there with the police officers, with the patrol officers. And I believe that the constable's office can do a little bit of more police work instead of just the civil process. And I hope that, that is one of our goals to accomplish as a constable. I also would like to implement community policing into the constable's office. Working as a detective, I see a lot of cases that come through that are scams, identity theft, burglaries, robberies, and sometimes, we're not able to get charges filed or get justice for the victim through the DA's office. For one reason or another, we're not able to do it. And doing that community policing for the constable's office, I want to come out and educate the citizens on how not to become victims. There's a lot of scams going on, lottery scams, identity theft with your credit cards, with your utilities now. There's people selling houses under your name. So I want I want to be able to educate folks on those type of crimes. Right now, the biggest problem we have now is what they call juggling. I don't know if you all have heard that term. and it's real popular. And what they doing is these crooks are going out to your local banks and they sit in the parking lots and they watch people come in and out of the banks. And if you come out with the envelope or you come out with a bank bag, they'll follow you to your business, to your residence, to a restaurant parking lot, and they'll rob that from you. I think Lake City just made a couple of arrests last month. They've been real proactive on those kind of crooks, and I think they're doing an awesome job. But if the citizens and the community doesn't know about these crimes, we don't watch out for these things. And that's what, I propose that, once, the constable should take some kind of action into this kind of education for the citizens. The other thing is that I want to implement. I want to implement working relations with local police departments. Right now, I know that we don't have a working relationship with a local constable in Texas City. Unfortunately, they don't come out and assist us in anything. Even though we're a large city in the county, and we have right about 100 police officers, we're still short-handed. And I think everybody in the county is short-handed with manpower. And it's nice, to be able to see this guy stop, help. I know that in Texas City, if you have an accident, you get to tie 3 or 4 officers on traffic control alone. And it's nice for the constable's office to be able to go out and assist in traffic control and release some of those officers so they can go back and do what they're supposed to be doing, taking the calls and making sure that everything is, the rest of the calls are being answered within the city.
You have about 30 seconds left.
And we don't have that. I really appreciate it. I've been blessed. I have the support of the mayor, Texas City Mayor Matt Dole, all the council for Texas City, and I'd love to, have your vote and support here in Clear Lake Shores. We're going to be around for the meeting if anybody has any questions or that I can answer. And thank you for giving me the time to come out and address the citizens and the council. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for coming up, Mr. Flores. All right, next is item 9, public comments. Teresa, did I forget you? You're not on there, but Civic Club.
So, Brett stole my thunder because our party is this Sunday. There has been a little misconception on who could go to the party and who could not. The back-to-school party is open to anybody since it is a Civic Club event. So even if you're not a member of the pool, please tell your neighbors, your friends, that they can still come to the party on Sunday. Then at our last meeting, we just approved, the Civic Club approved to donate $500 to Stewart Elementary. I've been working with the assistant principal to find out what their greatest need is for that money, and then we will be giving them $500 towards Stewart Elementary for the students.
Thank you, Teresa. Anybody else on public comments? Yes, same thing.
My name is Tom Say. I'm here for Efrain Franco. He has a property that there's money due. He is 25 minutes out. I'm his neighbor. He asked me to come make the payment for him, if that's possible.
Oh.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. We don't know what it is, so we don't know if we're going to be able to make it tonight, but I think council's taking that into account.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, item 10, new business consent agenda. And I'm no longer reading consent agenda. Everybody can read it.
I'll second that.
Motion by Lyons, second by Bailey. All in favor? Unanimous. 11, council business. Discuss your possible action may be taken on the following items. Item A, appointment of 2 members to the Parks and Pool Committee. Brent Spear.
Good evening again. The Pool Parks Committee, or Park and Pool Committee, we combined some things, trying to get the name worked out. They did meet, and they had 5 persons to consider that sent in applications. My recommendation, based on their input, was to appoint Pam House and Melissa Stauffer, who actually applied to the open positions on that committee.
All right, need a motion.
Make a motion to approve the appointment of Pam House and Melissa Stauffer to the Parks and Pool Committee.
Terrell motion, Lyons second. Pam House and Melissa Stauffer, all in favor? Any opposed? None. Unanimous. Item B, approved to proceed with the interlocal agreement for Galveston County Health District and to provide EMS service for the City of Clear Lake Shores. I've worked intensively with Terry and the EMS, several iterations of the interlocal agreement, and that's all gone out to council. It's basically $35K a year for a fee to us. Taking a couple takeaways is that there's a true up. It could go either way, but I feel it's probably going to go more in our favor, but we'll see. But there's a true up each year. They changed the cancellation policy to 60 days. It's a 3-year contract. With each year, they're going to give us a budget, I believe in July, so we can put that into our budget. It also takes the KEMA box and puts it, it's a type 1 box, that's a change on the sheet I just got tonight. So that we'll do a red line on that. And that moves it over to Galveston County Health District EMS. And they also sent out the budget. And I believe that is all I have on that. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I'll make a motion to approve and proceed with the interlocal agreement for Galveston County Health District for EMS service.
All right, second.
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion?
Just want it noted in the notes, please, Christy, my objection is only with the fact that the Kima Volunteer Fire Department is paying the $120,000 startup cost for the Galveston County ambulance.
Also want to say that the Water District is providing that money to the...
No, it's coming out of the Kima Fire Department reserves. And it's not the fact, I mean, the Kima Fire Department has the money to do it. As I stated earlier, my concern is that it's essentially going to be a Galveston County ambulance because they're going to end up wrapping it with Galveston County Health Department, and so I just feel they should pay the startup cost. I have no problem with the service they're providing. I have no problem with partnering with them. They're the right partner. We need a partner to provide transport services for us. Just I feel that that money should come from the county. I understand they had a $5 million surplus or something, but anyway, otherwise I'm totally in favor of working with Galveston County for EMS transport services. I just wish they would pony up the money.
Completely understand, but also the Water District, $10 a spout is coming into that budget. So Emergency Services Board, that is money coming out of the Water District that we're paying taxes to.
That was actually my main question when you raised the objection, or you mentioned it earlier. So to clarify, it is the Water District money that we're paying to the Water District that's being used for the 120.
Well, that's how the Kima Volunteer Fire Department budget is funded.
Correct.
So it's Water District, Kima Fire Department, and then we're taking that money from them for the startup costs for them.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay,
And then they're going to take our ambulance and take our decals off and put theirs on, and they're going to run it, and they're going to maintain it, and they're going to pay for the fuel.
That's right.
Right. And their people are going to run it.
It's from
the reserves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understand.
That's my only objection.
Understand.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
am in complete favor of everything else in the
Yeah.
contract, and the true-ups, I think, we'll see what happens with those. I like that that's in that contract.
And there's also an exit strategy if we need to,
Correct.
if we do not, agree with what
And
they-
that's what was changed today, right? The exit strategy was reduced to 60 days. Is that the new thing that you,
Correct.
okay, that was
Yep.
great. I appreciated that.
And to add to that, I think, a lot of us favor going to, Kima EMS. It's just, I don't think we're ready, in my opinion, right now.
No, agreed.
That's
And,
right.
We need to come up with a plan,
but this
which
is
I think
a
we're working
baby
on.
step, and I think we can do that,
Yep.
and I look forward to Kima buying a box and,
Yep.
and generating and creating their processes or whatever.
Can't we get the box back? Can't you get the box
Yes,
back?
yeah.
It's still a
Yep,
water department
It's owned by the
asset.
water district. The assets
water
are the
district
water
assets.
district.
Yeah.
It's still owned by the water district.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Excuse me, the council's talking right now. If all council's done, I'll recognize the audience.
Okay. I'm just curious. That even, wouldn't they reimburse us to have it put back to Kima
That's
after?
a possibility, that would have to be agreed to.
That's, that's not,
Of course, I can.
That's currently not in the contract
It's
right
not
now.
in the
They would
contract.
give us the vehicle back.
the true-ups are with the two cities in the water district, right?
Well, the
I'm just-
true ups
can
are
it
with
not
the
be in
EMS.
contract? Can we not amend the contract to add that?
I'm sorry, say what,
I
so
can't
you're,
hear you.
So that
Is your mic on?
Yeah, it should be, yeah.
Okay.
That if we terminate the contract, that they have to put the Kima truck back to the way it was before we did services with them.
I understand what you're saying. How much of that 120,000 or whatever that Kima Fire Department is paying for the ambulance to become Galveston County, how much is that just for the wrap? I mean, that's probably more to it, right? To get it back to Kima, it wouldn't cost another 120,000, I'm imagining.
Well, the big part they were claiming as a startup cost is the outfitting of their ambulances and bringing on 2 extra people.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
That's
Okay,
where the
I
money's coming.
understand.
Yep.
So what is their cost then in the contract? Because they have $160-something thousand cost in that,
Right, and
that they're putting up. What is that for specifically?
it was outfitting and, I don't have it in front of me.
Because ours was 35,000, Kima's was 100 and
Oh, and that was the whole part of it, is that Kima was picking up that, and the county's picking up the difference.
Okay.
Of the 316. The the net loss. So the county's picking that up.
The county's picking that up.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're only paying 35.
Okay.
And I can ask them about the changes under recommendation of the council. I recommend that we would still press forward, even if we didn't have it, to reroute this through council, or look at a lack of, having services covered. Kima's voting on this tomorrow, then it goes to the county, and then everybody will sign.
for essentially an August 1st, or not August, October 1st.
October 1st start date. And that's another thing to add to that, talking to Clemcy today, they've come back with a price of $5,400 something a month.
Less than $5,000 a month if we continue a month-to-month service with them.
Right, and so our service will end on the 15th, and so that's $2,400 that we'll have to carry with Clemcy with dual coverage, essentially.
So they're saying less than 5,000 a month, so that'd be 60 grand a year to go month to month with Clemcy.
Any further discussion by council?
I mean, it's like 4,800 and some odd change.
Anybody in the audience? Jay, Fenwick? Can you use a microphone, please?
I was just wondering if we give up this box that there's been talk in the past, is this gonna give the fire department the ability to get their license, their provider license? Because once we lose the box, they can't get the provider license to maybe move forward in the future.
That's what I'm hearing is correct, is that once they lose the box, then Chief Hahn has stated that they can no longer go get their license, and I have no idea what they're doing with their director. at that point.
Right.
But the
So like you were talking earlier about moving forward and possibly KEMA being able to do it, we wouldn't have a license to be able to do that.
well, moving forward, we'll go out and have KEMA get a box, another box, and go forward with that, is what I would envision. It's just the timing right now, it's no way to do it. Alright. Having no further discussion, we have a motion on the floor to approve it. All in favor? 3 with Angie, Bailey, and
Amanda.
Lyons, and then Amanda's opposed. Motion passes. Alright, item C, for rescheduling the October 1st, 2019 City Council meeting to October 2nd, 2019 due to the National Night Out. Brent Speary.
Pretty self-explanatory.
Don't know if you had any big comments to make.
I recommend that you do that because then you can participate in National Night Out and allow our citizens to do so as well. It's part of the community policing agenda for the police department.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
I'll second.
Lyons, second. All in favor? Motion passed. Alright, item D, revocation of waterfront leases due to non-payment. And I'll see if I get this right. B017 and B027B, and I forget the last one.
Which one?
C078.
We're pulling those?
I'll make a motion, for revocation of waterfront leases, B17, B027B, and C078. I wanna discuss.
78, is that what you said? 78.
C078, yes ma'am.
So Angie made a motion.
Mm-hmm.
I'll second it.
Christie second.
Discussion?
Discussion.
So C078 is owned by Franco, and the gentleman in the back is gonna pay for their waterfront tomorrow.
Actually,
Oh, I'm looking right at you, okay.
Okay.
Did we have a mail mix-up? Do we have the correct information for you now, so you don't have to go through this again next year? Okay. If,
see Christie
our
after the
city
meeting.
secretary, Christie, will be there tomorrow if you wanna make sure. Thank you. I'd like to, motion in a second. I'd like to amend the motion. Revocation of waterfront lease B017 and B027B only. Do not include C078.
Alright, amended motion, the revocation of waterfront leases for just B017 and B027B.
I'll second.
Bailey second. Alright, all in favor? Motion passed, unanimous. Alright, item E, approve proposal for pier removal in anticipation of auction of waterfront lease E122A and E122B. Brent Spear.
Again, pretty self-explanatory. It is an ongoing issue. It's a danger to the boating community and does look bad. Needs to be removed. Kevin has contacted several of our contractors, and we've gotten one responsive quote from Bulkhead and Pier. The amount is $6,675. That includes the removal of approximately 57 pilings, the dumpster to take it away, and to remove the frame and deck. If you are unfamiliar with that, it kind of looks like this drawing that's on the screen, and where the squiggly is, where it attaches to the land, there's a chain link gate there. All the services have been disconnected to that. It had power and it had water at one time that ran out to it. It's heavily decayed and damaged, and it's just been, I guess, forgotten and deteriorated. So.
I will make the to approve the, bid for $6,675 for the removal of the piers, et cetera.
A motion from Amanda,
I'll second.
Angie second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passed. Item F, Shell Bottom Boat Ramp Committee Report. Miss Angie Terrell.
Mayor Otten commissioned a boat ramp committee to look at primarily the parking in Shell Bottom Park and the boat ramp. In anticipation of our influx of visitors as a result of 146 construction causing the closure of most of the other ramps in our area, we tried to get ahead of that traffic, and we put up some no parking signs based on ordinances currently in existence. Come to find out, those no parking signs didn't exactly cover the no parking that we wanted no parking on. So we had to go a little bit deeper and revise some ordinances and revise some signage for Shell Bottom Park, and this is our final committee report to the mayor on Shell Bottom Park. It went a little further than parking. It went a lot further than parking, but I'll condense it down to just this. The Texas Parks and Wildlife has said that they will pay for signage in Shell Bottom Park or in all parks that includes information about safety, boater safety, park safety. So we've come up with a recommendation for a new sign for Shell Bottom. All of the current signs that aren't really based on any ordinances, such as parking for vehicles with trailers only and such, we recommend that those signs be taken down and replaced with one sign that is backed by all of our ordinances, either currently in existence or ones that we've made edits for and sent to the attorney to make sure that they're safe and legal. So this new sign in Shell Bottom Park, provided by Texas Parks and Wildlife, would have the following. Park closed 12 midnight to 5 a.m. We've made an ordinance suggested edit so that all of our parks now are closed from midnight to 5 a.m. It's uniform. Some were closed until 6. Shell Bottom was closed until 5. Now they're all 12 to 5. Use the boat ramp at your own risk. No fishing from pier, no swimming, no fireworks, or unauthorized firearms. Here's the parking part. No parking on unpaved areas next to city streets such that the vehicle or trailer would encroach upon the street itself. Vehicles are subject to tow. We're letting our visitors know, if you want to park in the right-of-way, that's fine. Just don't hang off into the streets so that we can't get around you. And not only are we letting them know that via the sign, but we're giving our police department an ordinance to back this up so that they can enforce that no parking so that we don't get bogged down with vehicles. It hasn't been as bad as we thought it was going to be on the boat ramp. Not anywhere near as bad as we thought it was going to be, but just in case. Police for non-emergencies, and we have a number listed. If you do get your car towed, you can call this number, or if you have any other non-emergency, at least we have some number for these folks to call. Do not drive in the park except on paved roads or park in any other areas other designated parking area. Clean up after your pets. All pets must be on a leash. As a courtesy, this is the one that's not backed up by an ordinance, nor do we want it to be, because we don't want people ticketed for being uncourteous. But as a courtesy, please consider using parking lights only when launching and retrieving after dark, so you're not shining in Mike Pond's house or the Michalski's house. Folks don't realize that that happens, so we're encouraging them to dim their lights as they retrieve and launch. For a complete list of park rules, please visit www.clearlakeshores-texas.gov. We hope to add a /parks with all of our ordinances listed, so these folks can't tell our PD, I don't know. We'll have them all right there for them, and we've posted that you can visit and see. And for a complete list of boater safety information, please visit www.navsen.uscg.gov. That has all the no-go areas in the lake and in our waterways. One thing that came up is in our ordinances, we talk about golf carts. There's suggestion for new golf cart definitions based on new legislation in Texas. We put that on Brent's shoulders. We chose not to redefine golf carts at this time in our ordinance edits. All of our edits still say golf cart. Texas Parks and Wildlife grant suggestion, we would suggest the city go forward. This grant is up to $500,000. We do not have to apply for all of that money. It's a pay up front grant, so we would have to come up with the cash up front for this grant and then get reimbursed for it afterwards. The Texas Parks and Wildlife reimburses 75% of what you've spent. We suggest going after that grant, especially since a lot of the boat ramps in the area have been shut down. We stand a really good chance of getting it and paying for this stuff that we don't want Clear Lake Shores to have to pay for ourselves, such as we'd like to see the boat ramp resurfaced. We'd also like to explore options to expand parking. The grant does allow for land acquisition. We'd also like to make any necessary repairs to the boat ramp itself, as well as the shell bottom area behind the ramp in the water that appears to be eroding. Jay has some sonar equipment that he's been able to actually take a look at that ramp and show Brent exactly what may or may not need to be done as far as our ramp itself and possible dredging around the area. And we'd also like to use grant money to get a light installed at the ramp itself, just for safety during, you see these people try to launch and retrieve after dark, and it's comical, but it's sad. We need a light there for safety as part of the grant. And finally, the existing signage. Again, we'd like to remove the signs from shell bottom that indicate parking areas for vehicles with trailers only. We'd like to remove the boat ramp closed at 10 p.m. sign, remove the no parking signs along East Shore, and replace all of that with that nice single sign that Texas Parks and Wildlife is going to pick up the tab for. And also add a sign, golf cart parking only, in the area of shell bottom where we have those pavers that we all do park, but it's not officially a golf cart parking only. For the items that need ordinance edits, we've made those edit suggestions and submitted them to Mayor and Brent ahead of time so that our city attorney could look over those. Those are in our packet tonight for council to vote upon, and if you have any questions, Brent's going to talk about the ordinances and what exactly they mean, but I've broken it down ordinance style for dummies. If you have any questions, I can let you know what the edits are for. And that's it, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Angie, and I want to thank the whole committee. These are great suggestions, and Brent and myself will be working on them, adding them to our action item list. A lot of them are doable. Some may have to come to the council, just depending on what the cost is.
I have a question. Am I allowed to ask a question?
Sure.
I think this is great. For the non-emergencies, is that for the police? Is that number monitored 24/7, even on weekends?
That number is
Or
our
does it roll over?
dispatch. That's the after-hours number. So we wanted to get the city get with Chief Cook and see what number you actually want for non-emergencies listed on that sign. If there's a more appropriate number, that number I pulled was dispatch after hours.
Okay. I just remember calling a different number. That's why I asked.
Oh,
okay.
you do. Okay.
I think maybe.
Okay.
I just know this is
We'll
good.
definitely
Good.
verify the number before we have it printed.
This is great.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, again, I just wanted to thank the committee, everybody that participated with that and their due diligence. It consists of Kayla Sawyer, Pete Baylor, Mike Pons, Jay Fenwick, Christy, and Angie Terrell. So thank you for doing all that. All right, item G, ordinance number 2019-07, an ordinance amending the code of ordinances of the city of Clear Lake Shores, Texas by amending sections 66-138 prohibited acts of Article 5 city parks and section 66-140 Shell Bottom Park, Jarbo Bayou Park, additional regulations of Article 5 city parks of chapter 66 streets, sidewalk, and public places, providing a penalty in an amount not to exceed $200 for any violation of this ordinance, with each day constituting a separate violation, providing a severability clause and effective date. Brent, do you have any comments? Straightforward.
Straightforward.
I'll move to approve ordinance 2019-07.
We have a motion. Made a motion, Chrissy second.
And I would just like to clarify that ordinance now allows us to drive our golf carts in the parks and the waterfront leases, which wasn't allowed before, and allows our food trucks and other vehicles into Jarbo and other areas, which wasn't allowed before when we have special events only.
And just for clarification, in 2018 there was a ordinance that was passed, 2018-11, that allows Brent to approve people to use the
Right.
park, so this text here, even though it's different from the other one, it doesn't supersede it, just for clarification.
Exceptions, correct?
Huh?
Exceptions.
Right. Alright.
And this also, it shores up these ordinances so that our PD can actually enforce the parking behind our signs that we have out.
Hmm?
I will add that on passage of this ordinance, it will have to be published because it has a penalty to it, so there are some posting requirements for that, and it needs to be published in the paper, so it won't be in effect immediately upon passage.
About a month?
And Brent, could you address just briefly about the no unauthorized firearms in our park?
Okay, the no unauthorized firearms, that was a question that I had, and I posed it to our legal counsel. And I've got it actually up on the screen, so good choice. Under C, weapons, and then you see where it's underlined, that is additional text that was added. That way you don't have to read everything. But it says, pistol, revolver, objects, pawn loaded, or blank cartridges may be used unless the individual in possession of such pistol or revolver holds a valid license to carry. So the next one says, unless the individual in possession holds a valid license to carry the weapon. So we're not infringing upon the state right for people that have concealed carry permits, or police that have to carry weapons, or someone else engaged in their official activities, or who's been vetted to do that. And we're trying to prevent, 15-year-old kids from showing up and shooting stuff, shooting bottles and things like that. You're never going to regulate. We see this in all the time. You're never going to regulate all threats, especially when it comes to firearms. We can just do the best we can and remain diligent and vigilant against people. And I would encourage any member of the public that if you see something that doesn't look right, certainly call and talk to the police department and get them out there. That's what they're for, and they can check on that person. So.
Can we have you get on the mic, please? Sorry.
Number 2, it's any rifle, shotgun, BB gun, air gun, spring gun, slingshot, bow, or any weapon repelling a force of gunpowder or spring, unless the individual has possession of a weapon that holds a license to carry.
Yes.
I don't think long guns are considered on license to carry. Like if someone is putting in a boat ramp, going duck hunting out in the bay at one of the islands, and they don't have a license to carry, are they going to be in violation at that point? That they're loading up in the boat?
I don't believe they would. That state law would supersede that.
But I just wondered, because it specifically says valid license to carry, and that's for handguns, and not for long guns.
There are also, there's also stipulations in the code that identify, feet per second, because we have had instances where people have discharged I don't know if discharge is the right word, but pulled the trigger and propelled a BB in excess of 200 feet per second or whatever, and that meets the requirement of a firearm, even though there's no firing involved in it. It's a projectile. So, no, this wouldn't circumvent any of the state laws. And that's the reason why that is added in, because we cannot regulate a person's right to carry.
Okay.
Thanks, Jay.
And I guess that would go along with if they were going hunting, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So they have to get on their boat. The boat launches a park, but they're following state law to get their guns in the boat to go.
And I would hope that we're not getting to the point where we evaluate people to the T on every exact thing, but it would be obvious that they're going duck hunting. They would be outfitted, and it would make sense.
Right.
Do we need to update the sign at the pool?
Yeah, that does need to be updated as well. There's some
We actually need to update
information.
all the signs in all the parks, and that's again, I'm a researcher. I got into so much stuff with all this. I'll be back.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we've made changes to some of those rules, and they just need to be updated.
Yeah, well, I was thinking specifically with the firearms, but you're right, we did make other changes. Okay.
Yeah, the goal is to go with one common sign in all the parks.
That makes perfect sense.
Fit with the other signs that are already there. All right, any other further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? None? Unanimous? Alright, item H, ordinance number 2019-08, an ordinance amending the code of ordinances of the city of Clear Lake Shores, Texas by adding section 78-102, no parking right-of-way adjacent to city streets, to Article 5, stopping, standing, and parking of Chapter 78, traffic and vehicles, providing a penalty in the amount not to exceed $200 for any violation of this ordinance, which each day constituting a separate violation, providing a severability clause and effective date.
Okay, it's pretty self-explanatory. Same rules of engagement with this ordinance. It does have a punitive clause, so it would require publication. Upon review by city legal staff, one of the things that they brought out is that if it's possible to clearly identify areas where no parking is available by address range, street name, even or odd side of the road between this address and that address, that makes that ordinance very clear cut. And so we get into kind of a little waffling area if we say it's the waterfront areas or it's city right of way. That's not usually descriptive enough to identify because of the penalty side. So if upon reading this, I think we might need to put a little bit more work into that to identify specific areas and make that clearly defined. And of course, then we would identify our hot spots and make those changes as part of this ordinance.
Would we add those hotspots to this? Because when I read this, that said to me that our PD had discretion. If something was hanging out into the road, they could identify it and cite the person. So do we want to limit that discretion? Or
no, I don't think you want to limit their discretion.
Agreed.
At all.
So by adding the more particulars in, we're just able to add additional signs.
I think it would allow for the posting of those signs, and they would be covered by the ordinance.
Okay, so we have more.
Just a little additional
definition.
detail.
Perfect. Okay. But with the right-of-way changing all around the island, that's going to be tough, huh?
Our right-of-way doesn't change. It's static.
It's a standard 6 feet all around from the road surface. Okay.
It's like a halo almost. On the water side.
Oh, okay. It's just the boat ramp that's funky. Okay. Well, that area.
Yeah, there's a little section there at the boat ramp that's held by other folks. So.
Do you want us to revise this ordinance, or can Lauren, the attorney, do that for us, or is this now on your shoulders?
We will. Well, let's get some more information from people that are involved in it and what their intent was. I'm not saying institute your committee, but have some sideline discussion and discuss that.
Okay.
And then present those changes and get them to Lauren.
And the primary intent, if I'm speaking on behalf of the committee, is we don't want vehicles, trailers, whatever, hanging out into the road.
Encroaching upon pavable road or
Roads are narrow enough as it is.
public
So
thoroughfare.
however you say that nicely and legally, that's what we're trying to get at.
Okay.
Get off the road.
Stay out of the road.
Stay out the road.
Don't stick it out there.
So we're tabling?
So,
Yeah. Who had that?
So, let me see if I get this right. So,
he did review this, but that was one of his comments
That was
to
his
me.
comment.
right, so the recommendation is not to make any changes at this time, and for Brent to work with Chief Cook and Angie on working on a resolution of what changes to make, because the committee is dissolved from this point forward. And of course, they can give input to Angie or anybody and help with that. So I would need a motion to table.
I'll make a motion to table this ordinance 2019-08.
I'll second.
Christy Lyons made a motion, Amanda second. All in favor? None opposed? Motion passed. Alright. Item I, discussion of fiscal year 2019, should be just fiscal year 20 annual budget.
Yeah, just here, yeah, it just happens in the third quarter of 2019.
Yes. Oh, hold on one second.
Are these ordinances gonna be put up on the city website?
Yes. The approved budget will always appear on the website.
No, not the budget, the ordinances.
Oh, the ordinances?
Yeah, once they're passed, they go on the, website, but they'll also go in the newspaper.
Yeah, until they've met the publication requirements and the official approvals here, then they'll be put in onto the website, and then eventually they'll be codified. The reason why they're not codified immediately is because we pay a fee to have all of these little things updated into our code, and we try to accumulate a lot so that we don't get charged a bunch to keep opening and closing it. It makes sense to do several revisions or additions at one time than do 6 throughout the year.
And we'll bullet point them in the Islander too, so they're easier to understand what we've done.
And there's a spot on the website specifically for new, ordinances.
Thanks, Richard. Brent, new budget.
Now time for the bedtime story, so if you want to take a nap. This is the 2020 first draft of our budget. I worked with the department heads. They gave good feedback. They're aware of some of the challenges that we may be facing in the next year, so that's helpful. There's not a lot of things that are out of line. As I'm just going to scroll through these pages. Council's familiar with them because they received this copy, and I've already made additional changes to it, but I didn't get it rolled out in front of this meeting, so that will happen at the next workshop or prior to. But as you see, we have a 2017-18 actual, the 2018-19 budget, and then we have an estimate where we're kind of making an educated guess of exactly where we're going to end our year, and that's kind of a crystal ball, trying to see into the future. And then I have called the 2019-2020, just that it's the 20 budget with the requests. As we go down here, we anticipate there's some points of note. I don't have to go through the whole thing line by line, but bounce around. If you have questions on this sheet, then we can stop and talk about it.
Do you want the questions as we go then?
Yeah, as we hit these pages, I think
Okay.
would be the easiest way. But the electric franchise, we expect that to be pretty much where it is now. We're losing our cable TV and our cable PEG. It's a restricted fund, and that is due to the House bill that was passed immediately. And
The PEG was included in that as well?
I think so.
Wow.
No, there's a note. It's House Bill
3535. No, Senate Bill 3535. No, House Bill.
House.
Yeah,
Okay.
House Bill has the higher numbers.
A lot of numbers.
But so we get to keep what's in there though, right?
Yes.
And it still remains restricted?
Yes.
Okay.
And once you receive it as restricted, it stays that way. Unless they make a law where they allow it to be released. I don't anticipate that happening. We have no property taxes that's proposed for next year. As we scroll down, sales taxes, we're trying to remain optimistic. We're not in a storm year, so we don't see increased revenue on the sales tax side necessarily. So I'll take that trade-off anytime, and I think most people in this room would take that as well. We expect that to be pretty close to this year. We also have, just made a little box there that I didn't make. We expect these things to be relatively in line as well. As we come down here, anticipate, and Chief Hahn just left, but under permits, one of the things that we're going to be looking at and likely enacting is a fire protection fee and fire protection permits. The reason for that is we currently utilize the fire marshal. That is also Chief Hahn, and he is a kind of a shared asset between us and KEMA. We currently don't pay anything for that, and it does require, some on-site, attendance, some revisits and things like that. There's a cost to doing that, and I anticipate as FEMA looks at their budget and looks at things that they're gonna come to us and ask for some, contributions on some of the shared assets. So, or shared services, I should say. So here in permits, there will be fire protection permitting of some sort. That'll be a plan review, and then a certain number of visits on site, and then there'll be some annual reviews on site as well of programs. Is that correct? So we think that's a spot where we can try to help neutralize any impact from that, and that's a pass through that we're not going to make a ton of money. Waterfront review on the.
Can I go back, Brent?
Yeah, go ahead.
On
Sorry.
licenses and permits, line 100427 under building permits. Last year we had budgeted 17.5 for that, and it looks like our 2018-19 estimate for actually what we got was 90,000. How'd that happen?
We did really good at.
Is that new homes or is that businesses?
No,
or?
that's commercial, and primarily commercial
Is that
built
the
out. So
commercial, like the hotel? What do we build?
Well, we recently had a permit come in for pad site that's in front of Home Depot. That was, Target has a $3.5 million renovation that's ongoing, and there's a fee associated with that. So, as they do remodeling, there's permits that are generated and money that's generated. Again, that's not something that we control. That's part of their business model, and we're there to collect those fees as they make their improvements.
And these numbers and the estimate are based off of these new fees that we have recently created based off of all these other unfunded mandates from the state of
Commercial
Texas.
didn't change.
Right.
But the residential side did, and we expect our residential numbers, we tried to get them as close as possible to what they were before based on value. So we had to convert that to square feet.
Right.
And then we also made some additional categories to take in some of the weird things that it's hard to calculate square footage on, like railings and decks and things like that.
Okay.
Square foot of a deck is way different than a square foot of a three-story house. So we anticipate that kind of leveling out.
I'm going to step out on a limb and make a motion to schedule independent workshop to discuss just budget, so we can have more time and more time to discuss all the items.
We'll have to do that legally, don't we? Have to have a budget. We'll have to have a hearing. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a motion to postpone this for a separate meeting for a workshop. Have a second?
I'll second. You want to do that because you want to spend more time and you don't want to do it now?
Right.
So we can pay more attention to it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? None opposed. All right, this will be delayed, and we have to have it all signed off by mid-September for it to go into place October 1. I'd also like to thank Cheryl's here that does all of our accounting.
Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you, Cheryl.
All right, meeting's adjourned.